So I'm Claudia St. I'm the president of Affinity HR Group. We are NPTA's HR partner and resource in all things people related and HR related and recruiting and headhunting and all those good things.
Okay, so as we close out 2021, what is really the second year of the COVID-19 pandemic? How will workforce operations look in 2022 and beyond?
Well, I think there's a little bit of crystal ball anticipation of what will that look like. And obviously, I wish I had a crystal ball because I would have done some things differently in the last year and a half if I had that ability. We don't really know, but I think what we can expect is that a lot of the uncertainty in the labor market, in the economy, that is all going to continue. And I think specifically from a COVID perspective, one thing that's been very challenging for a lot of employers is the uncertainty. And so what we've been saying all along is we're kind of rubber bands and bubble gumming our way through this, like the old MacGyver toolkit, like we're making it up as we go along. So I think going forward, what's important is to maintain that flexibility of adjusting as necessary. At first it was go home, then it was come back, and then it was social distancing, and then it was vaccines, and then it was go home again, and then come back again. So I think it's really for businesses to anticipate increased volatility going forward with all of these new variants that are coming out and with varying degrees of severity, and making sure that policies and procedures are consistent and able to adapt to the individual needs of members. So a uniform policy, but that can speak to the individual needs of their employees. Those with children have different needs than those without. Those with medical conditions or sincerely held religious beliefs are going to make separate requests from those that don't have those things. So it's really anticipating what are the decisions that are going to have to be made, and then being consistent in how you consider those decisions, recognizing the need for flexibility. I know that sounds a little bit odd, but it is really, we have to treat each situation because it is a public health crisis. We have to treat each person's situation uniquely within a set of standards.
Absolutely. And that's a perfect segue into my next question, which speaks to that flexibility. So overall, over the last 18 plus months, what have we learned about the inherent ability to adapt within professional environments?
Well, I think one thing that I think the biggest surprise overall is that we did it, right? We literally closed down. Some NPTA members and others were essential businesses, and so they continued to operate as normal, but maybe not all of their workforce was doing that. And I don't think any of us anticipated that we could work as remotely and as effectively and at such high productivity levels that we did. One interesting statistic I think is worth noting, and that is that before COVID, only 10% of workplaces had some form of hybrid. And that's you can define that many ways. That might be one person working remotely. That may be a number of people working part-time from home and part-time at work in a college campus kind of way, coming in and then leaving. It looks very different depending on the employer, but only 10% of businesses had something like that. Going forward, we're seeing after this that up to 70% of businesses will have some form of hybrid. And that may be either completely remote and doing away with their brick and mortar. 10% of businesses say they're doing away with brick and mortar altogether. And the other 60% are saying they're going to have some form of flexibility. So I think it was an amazing test drive, and I think it caused us to look at how we work differently. The other thing that I think is an interesting takeaway from the last 18 months is that folks were way more productive at home than they were normally at work. Not universally. We know that many B players became A plus players in terms of productivity, but we know that some C players became Fs. And every business owner that we've talked to, they know who their A's are and they know who their Fs are, and they know who thrived and who didn't thrive. But by and large, productivity went through the roof, and that was an interesting surprise. So we are anticipating that employers are going to continue to do some sort of flexible work environment, and it couldn't come at a better time because the labor market is so tight and competition for skilled labor is so tight that adding the ability to have a flexible work environment helps in two ways. It's a great attraction and retention tool for those folks who would like some of that flexibility. And it also opens up the applicant pool of candidates beyond your own geographic footprint to other parts of the country where you may be more successful. So having that flexibility is definitely a competitive advantage as we look to 2022 and some of the really challenging workforce issues that we're going to face in the next year.
And turning the corner into 2022, how similar will things look compared to before the pandemic hit? I know that seems like so long ago, with regards to remote work, in-person meetings, et cetera.
I don't think it's going to look similar at all, actually. And I think it gets to this issue of, in 2019, we had a really tight labor market. So we knew that it was hard to find talent. In 2022, we have that, and we have skyrocketing compensation. So labor knows that there are jobs out there. The workforce is asking for more money, and they're getting it. They're asking for more flexibility. You can't unpack that. They can't unsee what they saw being able to work remotely. And particularly for women, being able to balance family and life was a really important opportunity for them. And I don't think they're going back. And so I think when you look at that tight labor market, and survey after survey say that employees want some form of flexibility. And so I think that's going to be a driving force for attraction and retention goals in 2022. We've also been working with a lot of production and manufacturing businesses. Those workers, they can't manufacture paper from home, right? They can't distribute paper from home, but they still want that flexibility. And so working with employers to figure out, how do you do some more flex scheduling? How do you structure your workforce? If you can't compete against increasing wages within your marketplace, what can you do in terms of offering, cool incentives, not 410s, but maybe 4/8s, or maybe a rotating day off every 2 weeks, or maybe offering greater sabbaticals, or maybe offering corporate cars, or maybe if it's a younger workforce, offering pet insurance, really thinking outside the box of what to offer. And flexibility is first and foremost on everybody's list, whether their jobs easily can accommodate that or not.
Absolutely. So what can business owners specifically and industry leaders do moving forward to maintain that cohesiveness within their teams, knowing that flexibility is always going to factor into the way we work moving forward?
I think this is a time where we get back to basics. And what I'm about to say, I know I'm going to get some hate mail for, but I think a lot of businesses should stop selling. They're spending so much money and resources and marketing budgets in attracting new business, but they don't have the workforce stability to keep those promises in many instances. And what I encourage employers to do is to take some of that marketing money, take some of those resources, and dedicate it to really identifying what are the needs of their existing workforce, and who are they trying to attract, and who are they trying to get to come to work for them. One of the things I've said consistently is, we say oftentimes we're all in the same boat. We're not all in the same boat. We've all been through the same storm, but we're not in the same boat. What is the boat of the people that you're looking to attract? What are the boats of the employees that you have? Are they bailing? Are they coasting along okay? What do they want? What do they need? And really dedicating time and resources to tell the stories and develop the programs that will entice employees to come and work for you, and also keep your employees. And a lot of employers don't know what that means. They don't know what that is. And the best source of that information is your existing workforce. Your best players. The people, if you could clone a handful of folks in your workplace. Who would they be? Bring them in, ask them, what do they want? What makes it a competitive advantage? If you have a frontline worker who started as a loader, warehouse loader, and is now a regional manager, tell that story. Go on your job boards, look at how you're marketing yourself, and tell a different story. Don't regurgitate your own business collateral to try to attract businesses. Try to tell the story of how you are a workplace of choice, and what competitive advantages you offer. And a lot of times that source of information can come from the employees that are currently working with you and have grown in your industry. Young workers don't want to work for their grandfather's companies. They want to do something different. And there's a lot of technology that you can promote. There are a lot of opportunities for growth. I think it's really swimming upstream and identifying the needs of the employees that you want to attract and hire, and tell your story and build your incentives around that. And of course, make sure you're paying enough, because you got competition.
And Claudia, my last question for you is, what workplace trends are you most optimistic about as we move into 2022 and beyond?
I'm seeing a lot of work around employers being intentional around the issue of diversity, however they define that. I think that's going to continue to be a goal for employers to be workplaces of choice. And it depends on how you define diverse. It could be racial, it could be ideological, it could be any number of areas, but really thinking intentionally about how to diversify the workplace to get a variety of perspectives, which only strengthens any workplace. So I'm excited about that. I think that there really is an awakening of the need to look at things like childcare, to look at things like workplace flexibility, to create an environment that speaks to the real need of women. And I think that so many women exited the workplace in the last year, and we're still right now as we speak in the midst of the Great Recession or Great Resignation, the big quit. Folks are continuing to quit their jobs, and we don't know where they're going, but they're making the choices to go to the places that suit them. I think we've all had a little bit of a, what do I really want out of life? How do I really want to dedicate my time going forward? And I think employers that recognize that, see that, listen to that, support that, will end up creating a workplace that is healthier and more sustainable. And I think that's only a good trend. I also think that recognizing that folks do want flexibility, they want the ability to balance what they do, how they do it, is also a really positive step forward. I don't think we're not done with the lessons that we need to learn around the big quit, that folks are just tired of working 80 hours a day or a week, and are tired of with limited rewards, that we do need to have a greater balance. And I think that the employers that focus on that will be very successful as we compete with an ever shrinking workforce, because that's not going away. One of the big trends for 2022 is that this tight labor market isn't going anywhere, because baby boomers are resigning. There aren't that many Gen Zs. We haven't had much immigration into the workplace. So we're going to continue to compete for limited resources in terms of human capital. And those that really listen to employees and develop positive workplace programs and structures are going to win. And I think that's a good thing.